remember saying that first film was the most intense action film I'd ever done. And this time around, it was even more intense. The movie was exhilarating, it was nerve-wracking, with huge amounts of action. It's been quite a journey.
Extraction 2, it's a bigger, crazier, and epic extravaganza. With car chases, you got high falls, fist fights.
Chris, just incredible.
He's doing stunt sequences that go on for so many beats. He's willing to put himself out there, both emotionally and physically, for the good of the film.
Sam's a real storyteller. His knowledge for action and stunts and how to tell a story within it is impressive. It's a perfect collaboration.
It's our first day back, and we decided to do a pretty simple shot. Kidding, it's a very complicated shot. For this movie, we're gonna come out with a one sequence that's over 20 minutes long, where we have real helicopters landing on the rooftop of moving trains.
That sequence was one of the toughest.
I was strapped to or moving on top of a speeding train while a real helicopter was landing 3 feet from me.
It's pretty amazing to watch the skill from everybody orchestrating that shot. Get some rest before you watch this film. It's going to take it out of you.
We're about to light 5 stunt players and Chris Hemsworth on fire. Don't tell Netflix.
I'd come off the most recent Thor film, so I was just like training and eating and training and eating. I was big, but in this film, their focus was to strip that down, be a lot leaner, a lot more agile, just because there were so many things that were required of me.
We were working from 8 to 7, a lot of preparation on the body, army training.
Today we're able to come out on the range with Chris. We went over some of the basic stuff with firearm, hammering down on those fundamentals of shooting.
The unique thing about Chris is that he's a massive guy, but he's super coordinated and super physical. Day in, day out, Chris trained to be able to do the fights himself, and it allows us to do longer takes when normally you're hiding a stunt double.
It's the hardest thing I've ever been involved in. We really set the bar on the first one, so the only place to go this time around was even more of all of that.
We wanted the audience to feel what it's like in real time to go on this extraction with Tyler Rake. We got fist fights, we got people on fire, we got car chases, helicopters, Chris Hemsworth firing big guns. It's unbelievable.
He is the most humble international star I've ever worked with.
Chris has a unique combination of somebody who is literally a world-class athlete, who is also incredibly talented, well-crafted actor.
I can't express enough how impressed, also thankful I am to be working with someone who is both collaborative and willing to put himself out there, both emotionally and physically.
It was exhilarating, it was nerve-wracking, but man, it's a pretty wonderful collaboration. It was our duty to come and bring it on this one and raise the bar again, and we did that. And I think people are going to love it.
We kind of set the bar on the first movie for this style of action, so it didn't really feel like an extraction movie without a oneer in it, and figured what better place than this first big action sequence to show the extraction in real time like we did in the first film. And it actually was the first seed of an idea for the script, an extraction from a prison.
Stay close.
In a sequence like this, we hide cuts in there, usually after a big stunt or like a line of dialogue, and it's really difficult to hide these stitches because there's so many layers. You've got 70 to 100 stunt people, you've got 200 background performers all moving and fighting, and you have to break it down so that you could have small achievable bits. We shot that over the course of, I think, 3 nights, because each one of those sequences takes time, especially the part with the fire, because we have to be safe. If you're lighting Chris Hemsworth on fire, you must be safe. As a stunt performer, I think it informs the way I direct because of that innate sense for action, because I spent so much time with it. So my background in stunts informs where I put cameras and why, and how I try to add character to these action sequences. Easily the most complicated logistically was the train sequence. You've got moving trains, you've got lead actors on moving trains, you've got real helicopters, and you have to photograph that in a way that fits the style of our movie, which is generally handheld and very up close and personal. So we had different configurations of the train. We'd block it out and say, all right, we're shooting this way because of the sun or for whatever reason. So it was just a puzzle. It's broken up into a number of different locations because we had exterior train work that we started with, and then when we would go inside the train, some of that stuff was on stage, which was months later. Landing the helicopter took us 5 times. The take that was actually in the movie, I believe, is take 3, because by the time we got to the end, the pilot was so good, he was landing it so perfectly that it looked fake. So we wanted to make sure there was movement so people would realize it was actually real. And we knew in designing this, we wanted to do something with height. So we were looking around for where's a good high rise, so we found Vienna. We planned on shooting on the top of that building. As fate would have it, at that time of the year, the wind up on top of that, we measured it was 30 knots, which is very strong. So we had to build that set, like replicate this big glass building on a set. And we built it outside because we wanted the natural light. So we had to build it high enough that we could get cameras and cranes underneath. So we had, at times, Chris and Golshifta up 15, 20 feet in the air to get the shots. It was all real, meaning it was real glass, real steel, but we had blue screens below us so that we could safely have the actors out there and they wouldn't blow away in that Vienna wind. Inspiration for the awning fight sequence, probably from every Jackie Chan movie I ever consumed as a kid. And it was just relentlessly consuming this Hong Kong action cinema. And it wasn't just Jackie Chan, there was a lot of Jet Li, Sammo Hung, Yuen Biao, Wu Ping, all the amazing artists of that time period, like the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, just voraciously, I couldn't get enough. And so when I think about action, because of all the time I spent consuming that, that's what kind of comes out. So when Nick gets tackled off the top of the roof, that's a very kind of Hong Kong style stunt, rather than cutting it up like, 1, 2, 3. It's like, let's see him go over and then just sit back and watch him fall. The physicality of a stunt like that, to me, that's art. It's a thing of beauty, and I've always loved watching it in the Hong Kong cinema, and then seeing it in a movie that I'm directing is a dream come true.
God gave me a mission to rain vengeance upon your head. Sometimes there's a great sacrifice in enacting God's will.
The reason we set it in a church was for the villains, for the Nagazi. There's a bit of a cult-like connection within that group. But then on Reg's side, it's like, it's a story, again, of kind of redemption. Chris stays very fit and sharp mentally. But what we tried to do with Extraction 2, we both sat down and said, how do we give people what they want, but push ourselves and push the fans to just new heights of excitement and entertainment. He wanted to, again, do as much as possible. That took a lot of training because the fights were a little more intricate, a little more complicated than the first movie. His collaborative spirit and his willingness to show up every day before work starts and stay after to commit to the best product possible is unparalleled. And so when you work with someone like that, it drives you to be better. And I think that's how these movies are able to get better, is we keep pushing each other.
We began talking about the possibility of a sequel during the shooting of the first film. Originally the character was supposed to die, and that was going to be the end of his journey and his redemption tale. And we felt pretty strongly about that that's the way it should be. And then the studio called us and said, the footage is looking really exciting and fun, and we should give ourselves an opportunity to do a sequel if the audience wanted it. So we began the preparation for where this character could be taken and how the world could be expanded years ago when we were shooting the first film. And then the preparation became about how can we elevate the action even further, how can we surprise audiences even more, keep them on the edge of their seats, continue to do that, but also invest in the character emotionally on a deeper level. And so it became, the preparation was obviously the physicality to it, but a lot was about the narrative of the story and the emotional components being stronger and more specific and detailed.
The irony is, when they did Extraction, they weren't thinking of doing any sequel or prequel or nothing. It was a one-stand movie. They weren't thinking of doing the second or third, so we weren't waiting for that. It was a surprise, and I think it's because of the great success of Extraction 1 that they thought maybe there is a second story or third story lying in there. It was incredible, especially because I knew that they're going to bring the character of Nick down on the ground from the headquarters and make them, Nick and Yaz, to fight with him on the field, which makes the dynamic more intense and more, we get to know even Tyler Rake better because we get to see him in the middle of all these people around him. So I would say it was incredible. Also knowing that what we're doing and who Sam is, I mean, he's a great, incredible professional in action field. Working with him, we learned so much, I think, after this kind of movie. Whatever movie you go on in an action world, you're like, I've done it, I know what it is, so I can easily represent myself as an action actor. So it was really, really exciting.
I have this sort of, not quite love-hate, but appreciation for it, and also pure exhaustion when I do stunts like this. The stakes are so much higher, the risk is higher, but the reward is off the charts and unlike anything I've experienced before. And so my favorite, yet most challenging, would have been probably the prison yard sequence, where there's 300 or 400 different extras and background artists in the shot and stunt performers. Things are on fire, things are blowing up. It's all shot in a oneer, as opposed to traditionally when you'd shoot an action scene, you'd have 3 or 4 cameras on it. If there was a mistake made here, you could cut to a different angle. Whereas this, everything had to be perfectly aligned and everyone had to be in sync. If not, back to the beginning and start again. So it was exhausting. The repetition, the rehearsal time was so much more intense, but the elation and the sense of achievement once we'd completed a section, the communal collaboration and excitement was at an all-time high.
The most thing I really think about is this fight on the train, because it was the fight. And also for the whole stunt team and the choreographers, they were really thinking about it, working on it for months. It was very important for them, and at the same time I wanted to do everything myself. I didn't want any stunt to do my work. So the trainings, I would say 2 months before the shooting, that those days of training that we knew then we were going to go to the next level of learning the fights, the choreography of the fights, the process of learning those fights with the stunt team. And the day of the shooting, where we went on weather cover and we didn't supposed to shoot that scene so early, we had still 3 more weeks to work on it, but then suddenly they brought it 3 weeks forward. And I needed to learn the fight in 2.5 days. And everyone was like, but you can do it. And I could see that they're all concerned about, is it really possible? And all the doubles, they were ready on set. But then we ended up finishing that scene with me and no doubles, and we did it. And it was the end of that day I will never forget. It was like as if it was the end of the shooting. It was the very beginning of the movie, but it felt like, wow, we achieved something. And I was proud, and I was thinking all the work we did for months, somehow it gave a fruit on that fight in the beginning, and it gave me also a lot of confidence for the rest of the movie, because it was the first week or first 2 weeks of the shooting. So then I went on as Nick for the rest of the movie. I would say, yeah, and I had to change my underclothing 3 times that day, because we started at 8, we finished at 6, and it was as if like we were running a football field for like 8 hours non-stop. We didn't have even lunch break, so it was incredible.
I think what's really exciting about this film, and in the same vein of the first one, is that everything is shot within camera. I think, you know, myself, audiences have become fatigued with the amount of visual effects we see on screen now, and it looks like a video game. Whereas this is traditional style of shooting action where the preparation is so much more detailed, the collaboration is so much more important, and everything within the frame has to be perfect and has to work. Otherwise, you do it again. So I think there's a spontaneity and a danger to it, and a visceral energy that audiences really appreciate and can expect from this film. They're gonna love it.
Whenever you get a cast like this together, you know, it's Chris and Gal and Adam and these amazing actors from Georgia, it starts to become like a family. And so you're having a really good time of, you know, laughing and joking, where we're all playing. It's all make-believe. Like this is not, you know, not real life. It's exciting and sometimes can be very dangerous, but we try to play, you know, seriously, if that makes sense. So we're having a great time, but we don't want to ever take ourselves too seriously, because then I think it starts to you know, put a damper on the set. I like to keep you know, a very fun, open environment where we have music playing between takes, and, you know, people are, you know, laughing and having a good time when it's appropriate. And then when things get, you know, you have to have a dramatic scene, we can all, you know, control ourselves and come into the art of it. But I think the fun was just being around this cast and crew. It was just some of the best people that I've ever worked with. So I think that made every day a memorable and fun experience.